Hello, everybody. Welcome to another retro review from the Power Bomb Project. I am one of your hosts, Daniel, joined by my other two hosts.
Hey, it's Berman.
And Chris.
Today, we're going to be talking about, in my personal opinion, one of the best wrestling shows of all time. Not just from NXT, but in all of wrestling. And I know it sounds very dramatic of a praise, but for this show, I think it's necessary. I think it works. So, TakeOver New Orleans. Let's begin. This was a 5-match card. Every TakeOver is usually 5 or 6 matches. And, this followed the same typical NXT formula. And this was on the same weekend as WrestleMania 34. And, that event had Roman versus Brock main eventing. And at the time, as a fan, I was slowly fading away from wrestling as a whole. And this did eventually lead me to taking like a 2-year break almost from watching wrestling. But, WWE was slowly just killing my passion at the time with the constant Roman versus Brock matches in 2018. And, I was just so sick of, seeing guys like Finn Balor and Sami Zayn just not get the proper treatment they were worthy of getting back at that time. So WWE was just kind of, pissing me off at the time, simply put. I just wasn't huge on the product. But I was huge on one thing, and I was huge on NXT. And the whole vision is thanks to Triple H, Dusty Rhodes, William Regal. It's thanks to all those guys. But Triple H, above all, had this vision to really line up the next generation of superstars. Look all throughout the indies for who the best of the best are. And in this show, I can safely say some of those people are in this show. So, without further ado, let's begin. The opener is the first ever NXT North American Championship match. This was introducing a mid-card title to NXT because the roster was getting so stacked at this point. They're like, all right, we need a secondary title. So they created a North American title similar to the US belt on Raw and the IC belt on SmackDown. So we have 6 competitors. We got the debuting EC3 versus Adam Cole versus the debuting Ricochet versus Killian Dain versus Velveteen Dream versus Lars Sullivan. And I know those last 2 names are very controversial these days. And, they haven't aged well in terms of athletes or wrestlers in the sport. But, god damn it, this match is amazing. And it's hard for me to deny that shit. And this is just going to be a case where we separate the art from the artist here. Velveteen Dream and Lars Sullivan did a great job in this match. But who was the ultimate MVP in this match? For me personally, Ricochet had some insane spots. EC3, there was some fun that, there could have been had there with EC3. And EC3 took some nasty bumps, especially one by Lars Sullivan through a ladder. So, EC3 was kind of like the guy bumping for everyone in this match. And he was honestly pretty perfect for it. He sold a lot of the moves excellently. If that excellently is not a word. But you guys get the point. And then you got Adam Cole here, the leader of the Undisputed Era, coming in just 8 months before this, 7 months before this. And people were hungry to see Adam Cole succeed. And thankfully, this was the match where he did. And he got his moment and won the NXT North American Championship. And he still has a second match to compete later on the night. Thanks to his buddy being injured, Bobby Fish. What can you count on Bobby Fish for, people? Anyways, all I have to say is that this is an outstanding ladder match. A lot of people at the time were considering this to be one of the best ladder matches of all time. And I don't know if it's still getting that same praise, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is, because this is a fantastic ladder match. But yeah, as you could tell, Adam Cole and Ricochet were like the 2 that really blew up. Killian Dain and EC3 are kind of, in the same places in their career that they were then. And Velveteen Dream and Lars had a complete downfall. So we can all just take that for what it is. I mean, Adam Cole and Ricochet are probably the 2 best wrestlers out of these 6, in my personal opinion. So it makes sense they were the 2 that blew up the most. But we can all get into that debate another time. Overall, I'm going to give this match a 9.5 out of 10. Excellent work from all 6 of these lads to establish this title.
Yeah, and I think I was loving. I really did love this match. I was happy to see EC3 because it was one of my favorites in Impact. It's kind of sucks that after NXT, it really went downhill for him, but it kind of sucks. But I think this match was so great. MVP probably was Ricochet or Adam Cole. I think Killing Dain was really fun too. I always love to see him. The last two, I'm gonna call him VD and LS. Those two they did a great job, but I think that whole thing brutally. It was a great match, but these two kind of went downhill very quickly after the NXT era for them. But I think this was awesome. I think a really interesting too was that the Adam Cole had another match next. So it was very like it's kind of like a Seth Rollins kind of thing where he needed to defend two titles more or less in the same night at Clash of Champions. So very
Yeah,
similar to that to me.
I remembered that. It was John Cena for the US belt and Sting for the WWE belt.
Yeah. So it reminds me a little bit like that. I think this was an amazing match. Ricochet did a lot of great stunts on there. EC3 did a lot of cool TKOs too from the ladder. It was really fun too. So I good thing that Adam Cole won biggest first ever North American champion. Definitely 9.5 out.
Yeah, I have to agree perfectly because out of all the wrestlers in this match, my personal favorite was Killer Dane or Don, however you say it.
Killian Dain.
And it's funny too because I didn't realize he was on AEW, but for like
Yeah,
one
he's Big
episode,
Damo.
but
That's
he
his
lost.
current indie name right now. It's Big Damo. Oh yeah, he was squashed by Sean Spears. Uses an enhancement talent.
How 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 did this man go from the dangerous beast in NXT in this match to become a jobber, and also to
So
hearing about
I
the
think you're
Velveteen
starting to
Dream?
understand why AEW. Sorry to interrupt, but I think
Oh,
you're
go.
starting to understand why AEW catches some slack sometimes. It's for shit like this.
Yeah, because he was probably besides Ricochet and Adam Cole, he was my favorite because he was just kicking ass. And besides him, there was just so many spots of this ladder match that just had me on the tip of my toes the entire time. And it's cool too because this early character work of Adam Cole is going to reflect his future career in AEW, as we saw for like the past 2 years. So it's a foundation of what is to come. So definitely a 9.5.
All right, next match. This was actually used in one of our Who Is Better episodes that we did record between Ronda and Shayna, but it never got released because I realized I was wrong for saying Ronda Rousey was better. The Survivor Series match got me to change my mind on that take. Thank God. But practically, there's this amazing match right here between Shayna Baszler and Ember Moon for the NXT Women's Championship. This is Shayna's second attempt against Ember Moon. On the first attempt, Ember got lucky with a roll up after, Shayna basically dominated her in the first match. So Shayna was pissed that she lost in such a, fluke way, I guess you could say it. So she wanted to take out Ember Moon. And, it all felt like this was her moment. And ultimately, it was. She beat Ember Moon, and Ember Moon put in a hell of a fight, but like I said, Shayna became the new NXT Women's Champion, and she ended up becoming a two-time champion by the end of her NXT career, and quite possibly the most dominant woman in NXT history, except for Asuka, I'd like to say. So, yeah, Shayna Baszler is practically next level in NXT. Too bad WWE doesn't make her look like this much of a beast, but, whatever. I think they're slowly building her up back to that prestige. And I get it. It's going to take some time. It just sucks. So overall, though, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10, maybe even a 9. It's between one of those 8.5, 9. I'm not really very sure on this one.
Yeah, it's very sad too that Shayna doesn't get a title, get a title yet in SmackDown Raw. It's disappointing because how great she is and how great she was in this match, even in with Ember at the same time. I think this was a great match for the women. I picked because for me, I picked Shayna to who's better, and I picked it because of how great she was. And inevitably, she did lose, but it shows how better she is as Ronda against Ronda and in general. And a funny thing, and a good fun fact, is that Ronda was in the crowd that night watching Shayna win, go for that title, and she did. And it was really cool to see that, and kind of like cheering it up and everything. So it was very fun to see that. It was right before WrestleMania. So I think it was great to watch. Definitely an 8.5 for me.
And I have to agree too, because honestly, I think this is the only match I care for with Shayna Baszler because she did such a great job of seeing like the most recent bookings of her that we've all personally seen, and also to Athena kicking ass, and she should have been the woman to beat the TBS Championship belt, but you know what, whatever. I'm not gonna go there. At least she's the Ring of Honor Women's Champion. But the match itself was great. It was a dominant showcase of Ember Moon showing off her like early work. Again, excellent development with Shayna Baszler and Ember Moon. It was more grappling and high stakes and all that and whatnot. So it was a solid match. Definitely my favorite. So 8.5.
And honestly, I feel like Athena has done pretty okay for herself since then, especially becoming the Ring of Honor champion. Shayna, it could definitely be better for her, but hey, she's still in the company, and there's still that chance where they could redeem themselves with her. So it's never too late. I still have faith in the Shayna push happening eventually.
Yeah, I really do, though. Maybe if Ronda Rousey wins that title again, she against Shayna versus Ronda is probably what they're going to try setting up for.
Personally, yeah, I think the story for Shayna should be dethroning Ronda for the belt, but we haven't seen Ronda since December, so we'll have to see.
Mhm.
She'll probably get the belt back when she returns. We already know this.
Maybe.
Sure.
So, next match is the NXT Tag Team Championship match. It is the champions Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly, and Adam Cole, who is filling in for Bobby Fish in this match. So he's forced to compete twice in one night. And then he's competing against the two winners of the Dusty Tag Tournament that year. And they were Authors of Pain. Then the other winners were Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne. So the story before this match was that Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong fought for the UK belt in February, and Pete beat Roderick. And, the two respected each other after what was a great match enough to compete together in the Dusty Tag Tournament and win those tag titles. And they made it all the way to the finals. So, they technically did get what they got, their title match. But, since the finals match had interference, this match was also for the Dusty Tag Trophy, I think, in 2018. So, yeah, that's kind of the story heading into this match. And as we all saw, Roderick Strong betrayed his teammate, Pete Dunne, to join the Undisputed Era. And that's the main thing about this match. It was a massive betrayal and twist that I never saw coming at the time, and nobody else did at the time. But when you look back at it all, it definitely made sense, considering Roderick Strong was one of the Undisputed Era's biggest enemies, while the Undisputed Era was a threat in NXT. So it made sense that, Roderick gained that whole mindset of if you can't beat and join him, because that's technically what he did to Pete Dunne. So the story just completely made sense, and the betrayal completely made sense to where he helped Undisputed Era, and I think it all came together, honestly, flawlessly. That's all I can really say on that. I think it's one of the best betrayals done in NXT history. It just really caught me off guard when I was watching it live, and this was a really good match as well. It wasn't the strongest match of the night. As a matter of fact, it might be the weakest match of the night, but the fact that a match this good is the weakest match of the night just goes to show how strong of a pay-per-view this is. And not even a pay-per-view, this is a freaking network special, Like, this is a takeover, for fuck's sake. This isn't a mainstream pay-per-view, and they're doing shit that's just levels above WWE. Like, for example, having a metal band perform at the beginning of the show, and that was cool as hell. WWE never does that shit. Oh, and they tried to with Hardy at the Royal Rumble, and it fucking sucked. So, my whole point is that this is a very good match. 7.5 out of 10. Undisputed Era win. Adam Cole went 2-0, won both his matches on the same night, and Undisputed Era has all the gold. And it was the perfect plot twist because technically Roderick also won the belt here, because Adam couldn't be a double champ because he had his duties to do with the North American title. So he ended up giving the tag title responsibility to Roderick Strong. So Roderick Strong practically gave the belt to himself as well, which made it a true master plan for Roderick Strong. Overall, 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, this was a great match too. It was very great betrayal, perfect to how they did it. And for me, this match was really pretty fun to me. I would give it this probably an 8 because it's still a great match to watch. And it's more impressive than how freaking Adam Cole was okay for a good while in there. So great betrayal, worked perfectly, and that metal band that they had was, for anyone who wants to know or listen to them, called Cane Hill. Not a bad band. I should like them too. So if anyone wants to hear them, go ahead and listen to them. It's called Cane Hill. So great. I think this match was great. So definitely, I give this an 8.
And yeah, again, it wasn't my personal favorite. In fact, the fact that it wasn't like the strongest thing, but it was fairly decent, so I'll give it a 7. I wasn't aware of like the storytelling before this match, Daniel, so I have to mark it down just for a couple points. But the match itself was pretty solid. But honestly, I could have just seen this match like any other like regular viewing, so it's fine for what it is. So I'll just give it a 7.
Yeah, like the match overall was used as a ploy in the long run, you know, for the story that was going to be told in 2018, which was the NXT roster versus Undisputed era, which had Roderick Strong on their side now. So it just made it all very, very great. And it genuinely was one of the best feuds of 2018, even if it wasn't reflected in this match for you personally.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. Let the Milwaukee say.
So now, also, quick side thought. That Hardy performance was fucking awful. I have to say it again. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
like, the show was 4.5 hours, and they had to throw that bullshit right before the main... Anyways. Next match. Outstanding match. NXT Championship Match. And it's very rare when the NXT title doesn't main event, but in this case, I actually agree with the decision. It was Andrade Almas and he's now known as Andrade El Idolo, versus Aleister Black, who is now known as Tommy End or Malakai Black. So, again, this was outstanding. And the crazy thing is, these two didn't even get a lot of time for a world title match. These two only got what was above 15 minutes, and it felt like a full, complete world title match. These two are just excellent performers. And it was just showcased in this match. And having them be the world title match on your WrestleMania weekend, I mean, it may sound a bit dumb, but think about it. For NXT, it's perfect. These guys just make complete sense representing the NXT brand in 2018. Aleister Black was the perfect anti-hero for people to root for. And he honestly became one of my favorites in NXT very quickly with just how great his kicks were and how great of an in-ring performer he is and just how cool he is in general with his character. And honestly, I love the House of Black. I think it's all fantastic. But I think this Aleister Black in NXT, this is my favorite version of him, of them all. This is the best version of him. And I love the House of Black, Malakai Black. I do. But this is the best version of him, in my personal opinion. And you have the outside interference from Zelina Vega, all the near falls making you think, oh my God, is Andrade going to beat him this time? Because Andrade was Aleister Black's first match, his debut, and he destroyed Andrade. And Andrade has evolved so much within a year. But unfortunately, Andrade got stopped in his tracks again, and he never had what it takes to beat Aleister Black. And honestly, this was the right decision. Absolutely the right decision to put the belt on Aleister Black here. Andrade was already the champ for over 4 months by that point, and I think his reign was perfectly fine enough, beating Drew McIntyre and Johnny Gargano multiple times. So overall, I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10. Excellent.
Yeah, this was a great match. It's true that they did not have they didn't have a lot of time to do this, but they put on a hell of a lot, and I think that's so freaking great. And I do love that. To me, it's always fun to watch. And the fun fact, I really do love it. Anytime I watched Andrade with mainly Zelina Vega, if anyone knows that Aleister Black and Zelina Vega are actually husband and wife, and in those days, I think they were just girlfriend and boyfriend, just a couple. But now they're just a wife and a husband. So it's very funny that was that was kind of the dynamic. It was very. I was always thinking like, man, it's kind of weird to me. I wonder how she felt during this match. So it's very interesting to me. But I think the match was fun, and they had a great match at the same time. Great showing that finally Aleister finally won, and what he called a devil off his shoulder, and that was that Andrade in his title now. So it was a great match. Definitely 9.5 for me.
And I'm actually gonna give it a 10 because I honestly thought this was like better than the main event, to be honest. Because this match alone was so good, and it made me so sad watching this because they don't do anything with Andrade, and I don't care what he did to Sammy, but whatever. But besides that, there was just moments of like the interference of that one girl. I didn't mind her too, 'cause she was actually pretty cool. Like I thought she was just gonna be like the generic like
Yeah.
woman manager, just yelling like "You
So
can't do it," but she was kicking ass.
yeah, the cool thing now about Selena Vega is she's actually the current manager for Santos Escobar, but she's also an in-ring performer on SmackDown. And based off her Rumble performance, I'm hoping better things are in store for her because I think she's one of the best wrestlers in the company, and I don't think WWE is even aware of that.
No, so
Yeah.
if they do use it well, hopefully, because that's the kind of like the intergender stuff, which would be cool. And I don't know why the wrestling companies kind of shy away from that sort of stuff. I know it's a little bit off topic, but it's wrestling, dude. It doesn't matter. Like just
Well,
let them hit each other.
I'm gonna bring something up for you, Chris, and this is just for you. If you wanted to, you can watch Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground doesn't fucking care if it's a woman or a guy. They will fight a woman and a guy just
No,
because
yeah,
of how hardcore. So if you want to
there
watch
was
that intergender, that was a great company to watch.
no honestly there was intergender wrestling like every other episode. It was so normalized in Lucha Underground.
We need to bring that back because this was a match of the great example of what you can do with that kind of match type. So this is gonna get a 10 out of 10 for me. Going out,
I'm
watch it.
honestly surprised that you liked it more in the main event, considering that this wasn't a very long match at all. And I know your thing is that you like these type of matches to be longer than they are.
I know, but this was just the right amount of perfection, and I enjoy both wrestlers' work very much, and there wasn't much
Yeah,
complaints I had, so it was perfect from start to finish. Let's go.
I get it. They practically nailed everything. Main event time is an unsanctioned street fight. If Gargano loses, his NXT career is over. Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa. So you guys all know the story that between these two, Chris does, Berman does, I do. And if you're watching this video not knowing the story between them, why are you watching an NXT review? Gargano versus Ciampa is the most iconic NXT rivalry of all time. And this match was the beginning of a bunch of matches they were going to have in NXT. Technically not, because they did fight in the Cruiserweight Classic. However, point being is that these two had their first match here in NXT. This was technically their second match overall in the entire company. But this match is, in my opinion, the best match these two have ever had together. One of my favorite wrestling matches of all time. This is actually a match I would seriously consider putting in my top 10 greatest wrestling matches of all time. And I can even go as far as saying this is NXT's best match of all time. Yes, every single one of those praises. I genuinely believe that there's not one match in NXT that can top this one. From the story, from, all the crazy spots like, freaking the power bomb on concrete that you see just looks so goddamn nasty, and you cannot pay me enough to take that spot ever. And, there was just so much shit in this match that, they didn't even need to use blood, but this felt like such a brutal match. And it goes to show that you don't always need blood to put on a brutal match. And here's the thing, though. I always love blood. I prefer blood, but if you don't need it, you have something special. And these two never needed it. And that's what makes this special. And of course, you could say Gargano became the top babyface of NXT when he, lost to Almas at the takeover before. But personally, I think this is when he became the true superstar of NXT. And honestly, when I think of NXT, there's nobody else I think of other than Johnny Gargano. I don't think of Ciampa. I don't think of Baszler. I don't think of Adam Cole. The first guy I think of is Johnny Gargano. Overall, the score is obvious here. No shit, it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. It's so easy too because this was an amazing match. It shows off how good it was. And all these weapons that they just bring in, the crutches, which is the biggest weapon that they push in there, showing everything that they needed to do is so freaking great. And probably it was definitely one of the best matches, just probably of that year, I would say too, and probably one of the best matches of all time, I would say too. It was so freaking great. There's nothing else I can say except this is a 100% 10 out of 10.
And again, a great 2 out of 10 matches, but this one also too takes the cake because Tommaso and Johnny just have so much like chemistry with each other. It just goes hand in hand. It's like bread with butter, dude. No matter what you can do, it you just can't really go wrong with these two. And if they ever do reunite in the current WWE landscape, I would love to see it. But as for the match itself, it's another classic banger. And there was many moments where I thought Gargano was gonna lose, but obviously that's not the case. But just these kind of stipulations in these matches kind of like make out the best of these kind of wrestlers because you just never know what to expect. It was a very cool hardcore match, and it was an excellent follow up to the previous match before. So 10 out of 10, perfection.
So now the final thoughts. You just heard us praise 5 matches from this show. Like I said, the show opened with a great heavy metal performance, which honestly is how I think a lot of wrestling shows should begin. That should be more of a normal thing, in my opinion, but sadly it's not. And like I said every single match on this show was pretty good or even better. I was not bored for a single second during my 3-hour watch of this show. And for that reason, this is going to be one of the very few times I ever rate a wrestling show this rating. Overall, NXT TakeOver New Orleans 2018 gets a 10 out of 10, and there may never be another show like this ever again.
Yeah, I think that's completely true too. I think definitely 100% for me, it's gonna be a 10 out of 10 too.
And I'll give it a 9 because a 10 out of 10, guys, every single match has to be perfection. And I'm going to stand by that until that exists. So I'm going to be petty and give it a
And
9.
so he's never going to give a wrestling show anything above this rating, guys. So this is his practical 10 out of 10 rating.
Oh,
So take that for what it is.
no, AEW Revolution is going to be a 10 out of 10.
Yes, the Scissor Me Timbers match. All right, well, thank you all so much for watching. I've had a lot of fun reviewing this show. I've been Daniel.
I've been Berman.
I'm going to be Chris.
Please subscribe to the channel. Give us a like. Really helps us out. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions to give to us as well. And that'll be it for now. Take it easy, people.